Hey, today we're going to look at this little center columned coffee table that I've got drawn up here. I'm going to do a quick step through on how I went about this, drawing up this, very fast review of this, and then I'll do a second lot of series of videos, actually stepping through the putting it together and doing the components like that. So what I'm going to do is you can see just within this view here, is represented as an assembly. You can see the little cubes up there all stacked together. That represents that there's made up of many components. And then as we look down the browser list there, you can see that we've got our center column component in the middle. Then we've got some top supports, which are sitting underneath the top, funny about that, which are there. We've got our 4 feet down the bottom. We've got our tabletop and lots of edge strip around that. You can also see that within that, we've got our tabletop and our edge strips are all single components. And I'll step through that later on. And then we've also got our feet, which are like a stacked series of cubes there. That means that there's like an assembly within an assembly. So our feet are a different lot of assemblies, and the same with our top supports there. If I expand on the feet, you can see that then that is made, the feet are made up then of the components going around the sides, as well as the toes that are on each of the feet as well. So all of these single components are also made into an assembly that make up the feet components. So that's the first thing that we want to notice, is that all of that is there. So this was all built in the one file. There wasn't separate files that you built and then you imported them in. You could do that way. So you could make up the feet as a separate file and then import that into this design. But this one is just built all in the one file. So you don't have to exit out. You don't have to create separate files for each part and then like right click and go insert to current design and importing that part in there. It's all just done in the one space. So if we jump back to the down the bottom here, you can see the timeline. You can see lots of different things that are going on there. We're just going to jump back and we're going to try and keep this video reasonably short. And I'll cover over whatever I did throughout that. Some things I did wrong, a couple of things I did right, but we'll jump back. So in the timeline, I'm going to jump all the way back to the beginning. You can see first part of this would have been to go to create, sorry, not to create, we go to file, save as wouldn't have been an option originally because we didn't have anything done. So save it as a year 9 table. That's what we're going to do because in year 9. And then our first part of that is to create a component. And you can see that we've got a component there. So creating a component rather than a sketch, and a component, you can name that like year 9 table or whatever it is. So you can see that I've already named one down there because I've already got one going. So that was our first step. Then the next start of that is to obviously then draw the dimensions of the tabletop that's there. Not the tabletop, sorry, the center column. So I did it as the end view, 60 by 70, and then did the extrusion out to the height that it was. I wasn't sure which way it was meant to have gone according to the plans, so I ended up, if you're looking at the drawings of it and the plans, that actually is upside down. So originally I did mine upside down and I had to change the view over here to get it the right way up. Moving along, there's our center column. Our next steps were to do some cutouts from that. And I'm going to sort of just quickly jump into this sketch here because there's a couple of ways I want to quickly show you that you can do that. We had to do a cutout of 19 millimeters by 42, so we needed a rectangle here. We needed that rectangle in the center. So one of the ways you can do that is you can put a dimension here and you can actually use the dimension to work out what it is. So here we've got a piece of wood that is 70 mils wide. I've divided that by 2, which makes 35. And then I've minus 19 divided by 2 as my next point. So I've halved my 19 and halved this to actually get that lined up to the center. So you can use formulas in your dimensions here as well as just numbers. And that can be formulas with brackets. It can be just minuses, pluses, adding things on, all of those sorts of things. So you can do that. It's a really handy and powerful way of getting stuff done. And if you change something if I was to change the width of this, it will change and tie together. So that's one way of doing it, is to put formulas in that space. And so it calculates it out that it needs to be 25.5 from the edge to the edge. So if I was to change something, it would automatically shift that. So I just wanted to show you the fact that you can do formulas in there. And then if we jump to the next one around, just want to quickly go into this sketch. So here's the next lot of cutouts that we have to do 90 degrees around the corner. So if I sort of do that, you can see we've done the first cutout this way, then to do another cutout. So this time, instead of doing that whole formula all over again, which I could do, another way that you could do this is you then do a measurement. So I've got 9.5 here. And all I've done this time is I've drawn my rectangle. And this time I need to know, okay, well, if this is 19 millimeters from line to line, and I need half of that between that to the center point here, to my axis line. So all I'm going to do is go 19 divided by 2, and that will halve it, and that defines that distance here. So it's a little bit another way of doing the measurements there. So 19 divided by 2, and it will set that distance between that dot to where the origin point is there. So I just wanted to quickly touch base and show you those two measurements there. Okay, so if we're cruising through our timeline, and I'm going to do this pretty quickly, we did the cross at the top where our top supports are going to go in. We get there down the other end, we do the, now, should jump, right at the very beginning when I did the very first sketch. Let's just quickly jump right back at the start. You can see in our origin plane here, our XY plane, a lot of people draw, and I do vary this a little bit depending on what I'm doing. Some people draw up here in the positive values for their X and Y. But for this one, what I've done is I've actually used a center point rectangle, which is this one here, and I've created the center of the rectangle in the middle of our planes. Now, this becomes really handy later on, and this is why it comes handy. So now, if I get out of this sketch, we jump back to where we were. We've got these little dowel holes where we're going to attach our feet later on. And one of the beautiful things about doing some of your geometry around that center point is that these work planes become centered in the space that you're working with. So for example, that YZ plane is actually sitting in the middle of our block there. I don't know whether you can see that. And the same with our XZ plane is sitting in our center of our block that way. So now what I can do is I can do two holes there, and we can do what's called a mirror, and mirror that feature around that work plane. So to be able to do that, if I just right click on that quickly and go edit feature, essentially I go to features. So you can mirror bodies, faces, and features. Those holes are a feature, they're an extrusion. So I've selected those holes. The mirror plane is that plane that we've got here, our XZ plane. And so we're going to mirror that around, and that flips that onto the other side. So it actually saves me drawing a second set of holes on that side of the piece of wood. You only have to draw one side, do the dimensions for one side, and then you mirror all of that around onto the other side. Okay, so we've done that. Do the same process again for the holes on the other side. And then we flip mirror those. So then now we're creating a new component. So now we're going to do our top supports. And the other thing to do, so you can see this little black dot in this little bubble here up at the top level. If I want to create a new component at the highest level, make sure that's selected. If I move that down and select it in this bubble, then it will create the component as a sub part of that level, or a sub part of this one, depending on what I'm trying to do. So make sure you get that in the right space. So all my feet were subcomponents, not top level components, if that makes sense. Okay, so we're going to draw our feet. Our first one goes in there. Again, you can use the sketch planes that are there and then mirror that around. So it's a good thing to do that. I think that because that plane is centered, what you need to do then is make sure that you are symmetrically extruding that. And then the distance is the whole length on both sides, not the half length as in this one. If you do that, just to show you, it'll go fatter. So it'll do twice the distance of what you've got there. So you want to do that one there. Okay, so do all your dimensions there. Make sure you do your cutouts. then we did the next step doing the fillets, cut out the center part there because this is a cross halving. So we've cut out half of that part there. And if I just quickly hide the column, there it is there. So that's what it looks like. And then we jump through, create the second part of that halving joint, same process. If I get rid of that column again, you can see that the two halves are sort of fitted together. So top supports there. And when I created that second part, I've actually done that as a sub part of that top support. So this component is sitting under there. It's not sitting underneath that level there. Wouldn't matter either way. It just creates a little bit of easy. Okay, so that's my top supports. Put my column back in there. Next step was to create the feet, I think it was. So let's start zipping forward a little bit. So we've created some feet down the bottom here. Spatially, it doesn't matter because what we're going to do is apply joints to that to bring it back all together. So here I've just drawn it, and I've actually drawn it on the plane of this face here. So it's on that same drawing plane, so it lines up a lot nicely later on. We're going to use that joint command there to join the holes here in a minute. So we're going to whip through that, do a fillet. We're going to punch through a couple of holes there, and then I've done a joint which basically selects the face that's there. If I do a quick joint, I'll see if I can show you. So you can select that little face that's there, and then you do the reverse on the hole that's in that side, and it will snap those two things together. So I'm not going to do a joint. We cancelled out of that. So I've done one there, and then we go forward, create a new component. So that was the little foot on the end of the feet. So I've done that. Great one around the other side. So in these ones here, because it's all the same, I've done a copy and paste edit. So by that, you can see that now these are all sub parts of that. So I've basically gone to copy that component, and then when you want to paste it, you got to go there and go paste new, and it'll paste a new version of it. If you go to just paste, it'll paste one, but they'll be linked together, and it makes it a bit messy. So go paste new. Go through that, whiz through that. So I put all those things in there, join the little toes on it. Now I found it a little bit interesting that the hole structure is slightly different between the 60mm face of the post as opposed to the 70mm side. These don't quite line up. So you can't use the same foot all the way around and do a rectangular pattern. You've got to actually do two of the same and the other two are the same. So they're slightly different there. And so when I do the second video breaking up all the parts, I'll go through how to actually draw them up for you. Okay, so we pasted the second ones on, obviously do all the fillets, add the toes to the end of the feet for each one. I'll whiz through this, I'm just clicking pretty quickly. And you can see that we get there now. So we've got our feet all done, our table supports are all done. We're coming up to the part where we're going to get the top to go happen. So there we've done our top. It is just a straight up rectangle drawn on the top face of that as a new component. Whiz through that, and then did the edge strip. Now this is something that's pretty cool. So the edge stripping, rather than creating a separate component here, I actually did what's called a circular pattern. So I did the first strip. So there's the sketch for the first strip there in the blue. Once I've done that, I extruded that shape. So if we jump back one step, so I did that. So there's my first edge strip. And then from that, I've done a circular pattern. So essentially what you do is, if I go back in here, go circular pattern, you select the component. So the first component, which is the one that we start off with, we need an axis. And this is another reason why this example works really well, where we've got that central axis running down. Our Z-axis is going through the middle of our table. And then we've select that. Distribution means it's going the full 360 degrees around something. And then quantity is 4 because we've got 4 parts of it. If I was to do 3, you can see that they won't line up. If I was doing 4, 5, whatever. So you can create some really freaky sort of patterns with that. That would actually make a pretty interesting sort of tabletop. Anyway, I digress. So we did that 4 times because we've got 4 entities of that, and that sets the edge strip around the top of our table. And you can see that that's our table done. So one of the things I haven't done any dowels to do that, but that wouldn't be too hard. And if I turn off the origin, which is hiding in there somewhere, it is probably amongst the, no, one of these, it will be there. Might be under the column. There it is. Turn that off and it cleans it up a little bit. So there's our finished tabletop. Table, all done. So that's very quickly in a nutshell some of the processes that I have used. You can see all down the bottom there, if you start to get familiar with this, there's lots of extrusions. These are your fillets, capturing position. So if you move something, you capture the position. That's a joint there. Anything like that is a sketch. So you can see all my sketches in here. A circular pattern at the end of it. Could have done a circular, if the feet had been even, you could have done a circular pattern with the feet, but we didn't quite have that there. So yeah, so that's pretty much what it is. So what I'll do is I'll break this down into a series of videos on how to do it step by step, and we'll go from there. Hope you liked it.